Filling stage 1 LOX and fuel, and stage 2 fuel, all flow rates tracking nominally.
Hello, Facebook, and welcome along. We can't really see you because we're operating on limited internet, but right now you're looking at the launch pad.
Which one is my earpiece? The top
You're number
or bottom?
2. There you go. Your bottom. Is that better?
Yes.
Okay.
Don't ever call me bottom again.
Ha. Very true.
Ha. All right. No, this is not Tuesday morning. I have to stop doing that.
Yes. No.
Let's be a little serious here.
Right now we're live here in Titusville, Florida. We're at the La Coquina Inn on the deck.
Right. And nobody can see us. You just have to believe us that we're here.
Well, they can see me.
They can see you.
Yes.
Okay.
You're camera operating, so we're we don't have a big crew for this.
Mm-hmm.
We're just here working it. Right now you're seeing a split screen of NASA and myself on the webcam, and in a second I'll show you the shot that Ken has for him.
On launch day, we'll get up at a reasonably relaxed pace, and really we don't have more events on launch day then we have time to kind of achieve them all. And so it's really kind of designed that launch day is kind of relaxed. It doesn't get busy until you actually get into orbit or the time comes to go strap into the vehicle, if you will. And so we do need to get up a little bit early because there'll be a plan for exactly when we need to go to bed on orbit in order to be at the right place sleep cycle wise when we arrive at the International Space Station. So we'll get up, have a little bit of exercise probably, or breakfast and then some exercise.
I just
be able to do some,
was speaking with some of the other guests here where we are staying, and they were watching on the Discovery Channel, and they had mentioned that if today is a scrub, they're not gonna go tomorrow.
Yeah, that was the word because of crew fatigue and actually not only the crew in the capsule, but the crew, the ground crews, things like that. Is they've done this twice now in a couple days, and it's going to be one of those things where they're really going to have to get some rest. So the next launch attempt at that would be Tuesday. We'd bring you coverage from home at that point because we can't stay any longer.
Well, I can stay because I don't have a job to go back to, but you're my ride home.
Yeah, you wouldn't stay.
Yeah.
So right now we're waiting the next call on the launch.
Certainly when you go
which
through
should be coming up in a few minutes.
Right
Now they're tanking the vehicle, so that means they're loading propellants. They've started helium flow, and they're loading propellants into the Falcon 9 on the pad. The astronauts are strapped in after coming down again out of the doors again, greeting their families at the operations and checkout building,
giving virtual hugs.
Loaded themselves into the custom-designed Tesla and made the trip up to Pad 39A. NASA had some cool tracking shots for that, along along the
that's really
along
when,
Route 3,
Doug
basically,
and I are kind of
into
in
the
the
pad.
vehicle, and it's our
We were
vehicle,
watching that
and we
earlier,
need to
and you were probably all
operate it
watching that too
or,
on
you know,
on
we're
NASA
really kinda
TV.
in control of
But
the
right now, you're
mission,
seeing a
at
clean
that
feed of the
point.
pad off
Certainly
the
there are
NASA
things that we
media
can do
channel,
to
which
make
we've
it
gotten
more or
access
less
to.
successful at
And
that
you'll
point,
be
and
hearing
we-
calls on
there'll be a
the
ground team that's
Countdown
sending commands,
Director's
but we're
Net.
the
In the
ones that are in
meantime,
the vehicle at that point.
we have
Same
some
thing
videos
happens
from
when you
NASA
get
to
to
play,
space
believe it or
station. It's
not.
kind of a defining moment when you get the
And
hatches back open.
Play away,
or when you
and
close
when
the hatch
we
as
come
you
back,
depart the space
I'm
station.
sure there's still going to be fueling, and I want you to, because you're so smart with all of this.
Oh, boy.
I want you to talk for a minute about why they wait till the last minute to fuel, and what the fuel is, and if there is a scrub, what they have to do with that fuel.
Well, I mean, we can talk about it right now. If there's a scrub,
Let's do that.
then we what happens is the astronauts stay in the capsule. The system is still armed. The launch escape system is still armed. The Super Draco engines are armed and ready to go in case something happens during the detanking process. The winds are blowing out to sea, so that means that once the parachute deploys and the Draco engines stop firing, the capsule will go right out to sea, which is what we watched. We watched a launch abort test a couple of years ago when they just launched off the pad. So they did a launch abort test off the pad at pad, I think it was pad 41. They did a launch abort test, and so it would just go offshore and they'd be recovered from right offshore.
Right.
Launch abort modes, if they go offshore, this rocket is going to be going up the East Coast because that puts it in the same orbital plane as the International Space Station. Same thing we see with launches in Virginia, where it launches to the northeast and goes up the East Coast. That puts it in the same orbital plane as the International Space Station. And the big thing that everybody needs to know is that the International Space Station will be passing, the orbital plane of the International Space Station will be passing overhead at exactly 3:22. That's why we have an instantaneous launch window, and that's why we
And an
have to launch.
instantaneous launch means
You go or you don't
go
go.
or you don't.
There's no 2 minutes. There's no 5 minutes. You go on time or you just don't go at all.
Right. So what are they using for fuel in this Falcon 9?
Oxygen, and on this one, I believe.
Do you think they're using kerosene?
Oh
in that
yeah,
too?
it's LPO1 rocket grade kerosene is what it is.
Right.
Basically, rocket grade kerosene. On the next iteration of things, on the Starship, they're going to be using methane and oxygen. Starship
you just had people look over at you when you said that.
Starship is methane and oxygen.
Now Starship, is that the one they were calling a few years ago the BFR?
That's part of it. Yeah, the Starship is the capsule that sits on top. That's about as big as a city water tank. Mm-hmm. It's 30 feet in diameter. It stands 90 feet high.
Oh, is that the one I heard that has twice the amount of thrust as the shuttle?
The whole stack would probably.
Yeah.
When it's mounted to the the BFR Big Falcon rocket.
Big Falcon rocket in this case, right?
Yeah, which is called the Falcon Super Heavy, I think is what they're calling it now.
Super heavy.
They haven't even gotten that far yet. They just had a test the other day. They had a single Raptor engine. No, not Raptor. What do they call the? I'm having a brain fart.
You've been through a lot. It's okay that you have a brain fart.
No, it is a Raptor.
Okay.
Yeah, Raptor engine for the so single Raptor engine. The test went fine. The hose that drains off the pressure after a test didn't work properly, and the tank started to leak. So it was leaking oxygen. And if you're leaking pure oxygen out the bottom of your tank, eventually something's going to catch fire, and it's going to explode.
It's going to go kaboom. And in this case,
it went kaboom.
It existed no longer.
Right. Well, and that's the thing about this is we were talking about this. I know Tim Dodds talked a lot about this on his Discord channel and whatnot. Is that they're building them at such a high rate now that they could pretty much have one. This one they thought was going to go pretty well, and they thought this one was actually going to do the first hop. Unfortunately, they're going to have to wait till the next one, SN5. But they keep learning everything from every test, so that's how we work on this.
All right. You said we have some videos coming up. What do we have?
I believe we're going to hear from the astronauts on this one. And let me clear up the screen here.
From a mission perspective, I think the things that are most exciting to me about it, having been in the astronaut office and seen shuttle launches and seen the crowds on the Florida coast, and having grown up with watching the shuttle program, and kind of being a child that was inspired by the missions that were in front of NASA. And it wasn't just human spaceflight, and it was a Voyager program or otherwise other programs that NASA had that excited me. I think it's important for the U.S. to continue to have these exciting things out there from a technical, engineering, science challenge perspective, because it motivated me to go into this sort of a career, and I know that it motivates other children having seen them, having done interviews or discussions with school kids around the country. It's definitely something that they can all relate to and have an interest in. And so I'm excited to bring it back to the Florida coast, or be a part of bringing it back. I'm just one piece of a, multi-thousand member team that's going to hopefully pull this off in short order, and I'm really excited to be a part of that. I think on a deeply personal level, I'm really excited that my son is going to get a chance to see me launch into space. Being an astronaut has been a little bit of an abstraction thing for him, because he's seen me do it in old videos, but he hasn't seen me do it for real. And so I'm excited for him to see this launch. He wasn't born hadn't been born yet when I flew previously, so I'm excited for that. It's been really interesting, I think, for both my wife and I to have gone through the process of seeing each other launch in space. That's an aspect of our relationship, I think, that most couples can't share, because I've seen her take that risk and had it be in front of her, and I've done that to her. And there's just something different about watching a rocket launch when there are people on board. You feel a little bit differently about the pit of your stomach, and it just is a different type of excitement when there's humans on board. And I can only tell you it's multiplied significantly when it's somebody that you know, and then somebody, of course, that's a family member. It's in love, that it's even multiplied more. And so I think that that's something that we share between the two of us. And I think that another kind of unique aspect, I think that this probably wouldn't work for all couples, but it does work for us, is that from a work perspective, we have a very intimate understanding of each other's roles, if you will, in their day job versus what you do with the rest of your life. And so I think that makes a big difference, where, hey, I'm headed off to Los Angeles again to work with the team out at SpaceX to be prepared for this mission. She recognized why that's important, and not and what I might be doing out there versus that it's not another vacation to Los Angeles for the week that I got a chance to go on. And so there's an appreciation for the work that's involved with what we do, that I think without a partner that has that same appreciation, I think it can be challenging for some folks to really understand the stress or the criticality of what might seem more mundane, or might be, just looks like an opportunity for excitement. It looks pretty cool to walk out of the ONC building in a SpaceX suit and go get ready for NASA's mission to the International Space Station. But there's a lot of work and a lot of time that takes away from family that that my spouse appreciates, and I love her for that. I think I probably have a couple of groups of folks that I really think should be recognized for the historic event that's in front of us, and bringing us home safely, of course, at the end of our journey to the International Space Station. First of all, I want to thank the Commercial Crew Program wider team, and that's both NASA and SpaceX, and it's the Boeing team as well. It's the entire Commercial Crew Program team that's worked together to get to this point where we've got vehicles that are going to be on the launch pad here in just a few short days, ready to head to the International Space Station. It's been a journey. We've done it together, and I think we've done it cooperatively, and I'm really proud of that. So I want to say thank you to that entire team, whether they're here in Houston, they're on East or the West Coast, or all over the country. It's just been awesome to see what you guys have been able to pull off. For the American public, we, as that entire team, we're doing this because we think it's important for our nation, and we're proud for this opportunity that you've given us to try to pull this off for us as Americans. And so thank you for that, and I hope you enjoy the opportunity to see human spaceflight again from the Florida coast. I know I'm going to be excited when we do it again.
So now that we are back, something is different in that screen.
Yeah, the strong back is retracted from the Falcon 9. Yeah, you can see in Ken's camera, you can see the venting process coming off the strong back.
Now tell us exactly what the venting process is.
So basically, while they're tanked, the tanks are nearly full. They're about 80% full by now. We're so close to being finished tanking. They're going to start venting, so what they do is they top them off, and they just keep topping them off, and then stuff vents. Otherwise, it overpressurizes. So they keep a pressure at a level point, and what you see coming off is usually oxygen gas, and it's venting off. So they're venting it off the rocket itself.
So if that's oxygen gas, is that now flammable?
No, at the amount that they're letting it go, no, it's not. The stuff you saw at Boca Chica, if you saw the video from earlier, from the other day, that was so much oxygen being saturated in an area, it's gonna be highly combustible.
Speaking of combustible and fuel, when it comes time 3, 2, 1 ignition, how does SpaceX, how does NASA ignite one of these Falcon 9s?
On the Merlin engines, there's an igniter in each engine. They send the command to ignite. And basically, you're mixing the fuel and the oxidizer at a high rate. And right now, well, coming up to about 3 or 4 minutes before, they're going to pre-chill the engines. So they put a small amount of fuel in the engines so the engines get cold and they work better. They work at their optimum performance. You'll hear that call also for second stage when the Falcon booster is going up. You'll hear that call as well.
All right.
So you'll hear the second stage being added into the mix.
So we all see these huge water tanks next to the pads. Tell us what those water tanks are used for.
So the water tank next to the pad, let's get up a shot of the pad here. Hold on, I can do that. So I'm going to get off your shot and take a shot of the pad. The water tanks next to the pad are not for fire suppression. They're actually for sound suppression. So it was determined very early on that with the force of the exhaust of a rocket, that it would vibrate everything apart in the pad as it was taking off. It would just rip everything apart. So the deluge of water, which in the shuttle era, when the main engine started, you saw that cloud of steam come up. That was steam. That wasn't smoke. That was actually steam coming up. Same thing will happen with the Falcon 9. A deluge of water deadens the sound, believe it or not. So the pad does not rip apart as it's going up. And it also causes a steam, so that's a lot of the steam you see coming off the pad. That steam will start to go away as the Falcon lifts off the pad and clears the tower, and you'll start to see smoke trails from the Falcon itself.
Where are we at in the countdown?
By my watch, let me see. We're getting ready to hand it over to the Falcon 9 internal computers at this point.
That means we're not that far away.
Well, I have 13 minutes till liftoff.
13 minutes.
That 22 is liftoff time, 13 minutes.
All right, that gives us time for another video?
Yeah, why don't we take a look at the... let's take a look at what they're doing at the other pad here at getting ready for Artemis. We'll come back right after that. And we're back.
So, Peter, you are no stranger.
So wait a minute. So let's talk about that video that we just saw.
That's what you do to me on Tuesday
I know, but
mornings.
I wanted to reference the video we just saw.
Okay.
That talks about pad 39B.
All right.
The sister pad to the pad you're seeing on your screen right now, 39A. 39B was home to several shuttle missions. It was also home to a lot of the Apollo program. But it cleared. They took down the shuttle structure very early on before the end of the shuttle program to make way for the Ares program, which was supposed to replace the shuttle.
I remember the Ares program.
Yeah, they were basically going to take a booster, go to a solid fuel first stage, a liquid fueled second stage, and put a capsule on top of that.
The exact opposite of what you normally have.
Well, liquid. This was liquid to liquid. But they were going to take the shuttle booster, proven hardware, put a second stage engine on that was also proven hardware, and put a capsule on top, and that was going to be the initial replacement for the shuttle. That program died. It was defunded. I think under Bush, it was defunded, and that program was defunded. Somebody's shaking their head. Yes, I got it right. That program was defunded, and then they had to come up with another idea.
Yeah, you got something right there, Peter.
I'm usually halfway decent.
So
SLS was born out of that.
Yes.
And when NASA decided to say start funding private contractors for low Earth orbit missions, and start refocusing on the big picture stuff. So there came the SLS project, working hand in hand with funding private companies like Boeing and SpaceX and Blue Origin and Orbital Sciences, which became Northrop Grumman, bought by Northrop Grumman, all these little companies, Antares and things like that we cover in Virginia. So NASA did a kind of a split focus. They're saying we're going to farm out all of that small or low Earth orbit stuff. We're going to farm that out and make competitiveness. Therefore driving the cost down for access to space.
Right. So the owner of the bed and breakfast are at right now.
Falcon is configured for launch.
Falcon is configured for launch.
Displays are configured for launch.
Copy. Bob, Doug, on behalf of the entire SpaceX team, it's been a huge honor to help you get ready for today's historic mission. Know that we're with you, have an amazing flight, and enjoy those views of our beautiful planet.
T-minus 10 minutes to go.
Thanks, Jay. It is absolutely our honor to be part of this huge effort to get the United States back in the launch business. We'll talk to you for more, but thank you.
Copy all. Thanks for those words.
So the owner,
Bob and Doug,
the owner of the bed and breakfast that we're at right now, came out onto the lovely deck that we're able to get this shot from to let everyone know that if you're watching it on your phone, you're delayed.
Yes.
Because you go somewhere.
You're better off watching it on your naked eye.
Yeah, watch it with the naked eye because it's going to be delayed.
Yeah, our feed is a little bit delayed. I think it's about 40 seconds. But you know what? We're getting great audio off that, and I'll take it. So right now we have a split screen up, and I know
hydraulic press.
Pressing hydraulics for flight.
That's another good sign.
Yep. Weather's holding at the Cape right now.
So you are no stranger to Kennedy.
No, I was here in 2011 with my old TV station. I wasn't working for them anymore, but they allowed me to come down and work with them for the final launch of the shuttle, STS-135. I was standing behind the countdown clock, and same kind of radio you had there. Appears I was the only mission audio. They didn't put out speakers, so my little ham radio with the ham club of Kennedy Space Center, I had the only mission audio, and I had news organizations from around the world holding up their microphones to my little ham radio that our local anchor Dave Mattson was holding on to, along with his microphone.
And we were using this radio much in the same way. We were inside when it was raining, and we were waiting for the last weather report during the go no goes. And as soon as we got the go on the weather check, that's when we all came out here.
Yeah, N1KSC it does a great service to the area. It's the ham radio club of the Kennedy Space Center.
Stage 1 and Stage 2 engine chill has started.
There we go. Stage 1, Stage 2 engine chill beginning. So that's another good sign. Pressing for flight. We are about 8 minutes away. Probably 7.5 right now. So we are 7.5 minutes away from flight, and I was here for that shuttle launch, and it was my one and only shuttle launch that I got to go to.
And the 135 was, in fact, the last shuttle launch.
Correct. And I was hoping to stay for the entire mission duration. But I was not able to see the shuttle land for the final time. I had to go back. Pretty much ran out of money, and I had to go back. But this one we did drive down for this one, and we're going to drive back. So we brought all the equipment that we could possibly need.
Stage 1 fuel is closed out.
Stage 1 fuel is closed, so we're getting at about the same speed as they are. We're going to be about 40 seconds behind the actual launch, so you will see it on Kenny's video before you see it. On the feed. All fuel topped off now. On NASA, we're seeing a great shot of the capsule.
And right now, Bob and Doug are just sitting there waiting.
Yep, this is the hardest time because this is the time where you hurry up and wait.
Can you imagine being in that situation right now? Just sitting in that Dragon module waiting?
Falcon 9 is in startup.
Fuel is closed out.
Falcon 9's in startup.
No, startup comes about a minute before, I think.
Yeah?
It's a little early for that.
Okay.
I think it's on internal power.
Falcon 9 heaters closing out.
I know we're going in and out in the feed. I hope you are all appreciating.
Transition to configure for terminal count.
Terminal
tanks pressing 4 strong back retract.
So, I know we're going in and out, folks, but we are recording the show in its entirety, so you'll be able to see it. And Ken is recording a separate feed. We had a Nikon camera that could get us all the way in on the pad, but with these conditions and things like that, it wasn't feasible to run that camera. So we're going to do it the old-fashioned way, the way we normally do it. I wish I had an extender for it. But
and instead of having a celebratory beer or two afterwards,
Stage 2, RP1
Pete is going to go straight to the room and upload this video to all of our sources.
Thanks for the volunteering.
Stage 1, RP1 bleed.
You know what, Pete? You don't have to. I'll take that back.
I'll probably do it from where I'm sitting if the weather holds out.
Mm-hmm.
So far, we're looking good. We're under 4 minutes to go. Right now, the range is still green, so we're looking good on that regard. And you're hearing calls from NASA on a little bit of a delay. We're getting it the same way you are if you're watching at home and watching us in the feed as well. Nobody puts out mission audio directly anymore. That has stopped.
Yeah, that's something that we're almost exclusive with at Wallops when we carry the Antares missions. I'd like to carry the full gamut of all the commentary going on, all the commands, all the checks.
We're getting a good feed according to our good friend Les Tingley over in Agawam. Says we're looking good. Feed's been good so far. I put a 10-second buffer on, so we're going to be a little bit behind the actual.
Well, that's okay.
I put a buffer on because then if it does go red, we still playing out video.
Right.
We are just under 3 minutes to go.
I'll go bleed.
Doing final bleed off of the rocket.
Dragon
Oxygen.
has transitioned to terminal count and is on internal power.
Falcon's
Stage
on.
1, lock flow is closed out.
That's a good call as well.
Mm-hmm.
Weather still holding. I think we're going to get this puppy off today.
At this point, I'd gamble to say if weather was going to be a violation, it would happen by now.
Yeah, they would have called.
So if there is going to be any issue, it's going to be non-weather related.
Correct. Yes. Yep. The final no-go poll has happened.
Transitioning to internal power.
T-minus 2 minutes. Hearing calls from Mission Control. That's the normal Falcon 9 voice you hear on the Mission Control audio. I would use a manual focus there, Ken. As soon as the rocket takes off, we are transitioning to your shot. Do you know how to put that on manual focus?
I'm adjusting my drag. That's all.
I'd put that on manual focus right now.
Dragon is in auto idle.
It's on manual now.
I have 1 minute to go. Yeah, I'm calling it at 1 minute right now. Startup is happening anytime now. And get ready for launch.
And the train is here.
That's a horn. That's a car horn.
Is it?
Yep. It's somebody's alarm. Joy. Figures, right?
Falcon 9 is in startup. Dragon is in countdown. FTS is armed for launch.
Water tank is full, getting ready to go.
Dragon, SpaceX, go for launch.
Go for launch called. We have launch anytime now. Keep your eyes peeled. We'll launch anytime. I have 3:22.
T-minus 30 seconds.
Keep your eyes peeled. The launch will be happening any second now because we're behind on the calls. Unless this is very low latency, but...
Stage 1 tanks pressing for flight.
T-minus 15 seconds.
And here we go.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition. Liftoff of the Falcon 9 and
SpaceX
Crew
Dragon. We're go for launch. Looks like this candle.
Godspeed, Bob and Dog. Vehicle pitching downrange.
As you're seeing the Falcon lift off, it's already pitching downrange.
Stage 1 propulsion is nominal.
Falcon 9 is in the air. 8 minutes to the International Space Station. Passing through a low cloud and coming out the other end. Falcon 9 is now gaining speed as it'll be passing through the sound barrier very shortly.
Falcon power and telemetry nominal. M1D throttle down.
1 Alpha.
Probably catch it again on the other side of that cloud. Going over to the NASA footage.
1 Alpha.
There it is.
Copy, 1 Alpha.
Falcon cruising through now, several thousand feet.
Vehicle supersonic.
Max Q call.
M1D throttle up.
The Merlin 1 engines are now at 100%. Going over the NASA feed as we watch a heck of a launch here. Losing in the clouds, very similar to STS-135.
And I am not going to get it back. Let's go over to the NASA feed.
That's what we're doing right now. Very similar to STS-135, where we lost it about 22 seconds after liftoff. We got a little bit more out of this one than we did last time. You might see it pitching down range as it goes further down. You'll see the rocket as it goes. It's going to the northeast, so it's be going off to our left as it lifts off from here. You still hear the rumble in the air as Falcon heads away from the pad.
Max Q.
1 Bravo.
Copy, 1 Bravo.
Now those calls are all brand new, so I don't know what a 1 Bravo call is. As Falcon thunders away from the pad.
M1D throttle down. Start of MVAC engine chill.
M1D throttles down, still achieving heading to orbit. SpaceX has a
Eco.
NASA has a good
Miko.
I just called the Miko color.
MVAC ignition.
Stage 2, detachment and liftoff of stage 2 now. MVAC has just ignited, getting the Super
throttle down.
Crew Dragon into orbit. Now, the next thing we're going to be looking for is the return of the Falcon first stage.
Now, isn't that going to be going out to a drone ship?
Yes, but we may see some of the burn back. So
Stage 2 propulsion is nominal.
Keep an eye out for burn back, you're telling me.
Keep your eyes peeled for that. We may see the burn back out to sea. I've seen it at night on the Daytime, it's
It'd be over, I would say,
off to the left.
off to my left.
MVAC ignition.
So those call-outs for 1 Bravo, 2 Alpha, things like that, those are abort zones is what I'm hearing on your radio. Those are different abort zones that they can call out to.
Uh-huh.
So next thing is to watch for the Falcon boost back. On the NASA feed, I'm not seeing anything but the pad.
Acquisition of signal loss.
Dragon SpaceX, nominal trajectory.
Stage 2 propulsion is nominal.
Signal in Bermuda.
So far, the Crew Dragon is on a nominal trajectory, getting into orbit. The last call out was for nominal trajectory for the Crew Dragon capsule. And stage 2 is ignition. Now we're looking for the burn back for the...
Stage 2 propulsion is still nominal.
We're looking for the burn back for the booster core and see if they can stick the landing. SpaceX has gotten very good at these kind of things, and I believe this will be the 51st booster recovery if they can stick the landing on this one and make it work.
Dragon SpaceX, nominal trajectory.
Acquisition of signal in Bermuda. SpaceX Dragon, nominal trajectory.
Call out for nominal trajectory.
Dragon SpaceX, nominal trajectory.
Stage 2 propulsion is still nominal.
Let's check back in with Ken's camera and see what we can see down here. We may see the boost back, we may not. I'm working on the main NASA live stream and see if they have. Yes, we do. Okay, so we're going to the cryogenic shot. Showing the NASA astronauts in the capsule on their way to orbit. And we're showing the boost back of the first stage. Going to go to clean feed of the
Dragon SpaceX, nominal trajectory.
NASA DM2. The capsule's still on a nominal trajectory, and we're seeing the burn back now. The first stage booster is coasting right now after the initial burn back, and we're seeing a view over the shoulder of the astronauts in the crew capsule. Currently 11,000 miles per hour and gaining, 11,000 kilometers per hour actually. And 199 miles, just over 200 kilometers into orbit. Six minutes into the mission. About another 2 minutes of burn time before orbital insertion is increased.
Stage 2 propulsion is still good.
The Merlin vacuum engine is an interesting sort. It's optimized not for sea level launch,
SpaceX, nominal trajectory.
but is optimized to work in space. That's why it's a second stage engine. The Raptor engine is going to actually be a little bit of a hybrid to work in both space and at sea level. First stage continuing its attitude control. Grid fins appear to be working. Second stage has about another minute and a half of burn time. That last call was transitioned to a different tracking station.
Stage 2 FTS is saved.
Flight termination system was saved on stage 2. It's performing nominally. So next event for the Crew Dragon, the burn back is happening on the first stage. Almost time for a main engine cutoff for the second stage. And it'll be a short coast period, and then the crew capsule will detach.
Seco.
Second engine cutoff? Depends on which way you word it. As you're looking in the capsule, you see Bob and Doug in there. We have burn back. I've seen burnbacks before out to sea. So at night it's a little bit clearer. Seacoast coming up. The grid fins are working. Now that they're lower in the atmosphere, the grid fins will take over aerodynamically steering instead of the thrusters on the side of the rocket. So right now, basically, if you're thinking about where they are on Earth, the second stage and DM2 and the Crew Dragon are over Ireland, in a zone just over Ireland. That'll be their next abort point. They just called the Stage 2 shutdown.
Dragon SpaceX nominal orbital insertion.
They hit their target for orbit.
Disarmed.
Orbital insertion was nominal according to the calls. Now traveling at 26,000 kilometers per hour, 197 miles. And they'll be starting their jaunt to the International Space Station shortly, as soon as they separate from the second stage. First stage camera has gone down, but we're taking a look at the barge here on landing. This is, of course, I Still Love You is the name of the barge.
Oh, that's so sweet of you, Peter. Thank you.
Newfoundland.
Press on to Newfoundland now is their next ditch point, if they had to ditch. But everything's going right according to plan as of right now. Awaiting the first stage drop. That's a good sign. Of course, I Still Love You, loss of signal. That means that the booster is landing. Usually it knocks it around a little bit, and they lose video. Oh, we stuck the landing. We've recovered the booster, yes.
Excellent. We've stuck the landing.
So we have a recovered booster on, of course, I Still Love You, and we're watching Bob and Doug getting their capsule configured for separation from the second stage.
Now, was this the 6th or 7th time they've used that booster?
No, this is the first.
The first time for this one.
For a crew mission, they're always going to fly a new booster.
Okay.
That was a requirement. But this booster, I'm sure you'll see for other clients, including at SpaceX and their Starlink system has become so cost efficient because the boosters they're flying have flown 4 and 5 times for a Starlink mission. So it's almost at no cost to SpaceX. They're really launching their whole constellation. Oh, the dinosaur is floating. In seat number 4, they have a dinosaur that was in seat number 4.
Oh, wow.
They brought that up with them. I think it's not Barney, but I think it's a pink dinosaur.
The other one would have been a purple dinosaur.
Oh, yeah, purple dinosaur.
Yeah.
Correct. But I believe you're seeing that things are now weightless for the crew. Now, interesting note, Doug Hurley was on STS-135. And the crew of that space shuttle left a flag on the International Space Station, United States flag. And we don't know. I'm not sure if there was debate on whether that was Bob Hurley that actually left that flag there. And there's debate as to he is probably going to be given the honor by Doug Macon to retrieve that flag from the International Space Station and bring it back to the United States.
Excellent.
That flag has been flying for just about 9 years total. I believe the last shuttle launch was in July. So just shy of 9 years that flag has been up there. You're seeing video now of the DM2 capsule inside. Some of the readouts on the glass. They just crossed out of the Wallops range. Lost of signal Wallops is what they just called. You're seeing a look inside the capsule and an all glass cockpit.
Dragon separation confirmed.
Dragon has just separated from second stage.
Countdown 1 is unmerged.
12 minutes in, and there's going to be cheering in Hawthorne.
So do we actually have vehicle separation right now?
Yes, we do.
Excellent.
Yes, we do. The video's a little bit lagging behind, but I heard on the radio that they had a confirmed separation.
So at this point now...
Yeah, there we go.
At this point now, the module will be making its way to the ISS.
Yeah, it's going to be doing boost up adjustments to increase its orbit to match the International Space Station. They're arriving about 15 hours from now, so that'll be tomorrow, sometime tomorrow afternoon. They'll be docking at the International Space Station. And you see on your screen is Dragon, the Crew Dragon pulls away from the second stage. Great video, of course, by SpaceX. They just know how to do it right. They've actually won an Emmy for their coverage of the Demo 1 mission. They actually won an Emmy for that.
Makes me want to go out and buy a Tesla.
If you can afford one. So now you can see on the, it's pretty cool actually, one of the readouts they have is the attitude of their spacecraft as a digital readout, as a pictogram. So they're showing the attitude of the spacecraft. I think that's pretty cool. Well, like I said on Wednesday, this was the same setup for STS-135, and I got into a debate with a British astronaut who I found out later had a PhD in meteorology. I was a little weirded out about that, and I apologized to him. But we got that one off with similar weather conditions. That one you couldn't see the shuttle 22 seconds past launch. That was it. You want to take a caller? Hello, Mr. Tucci. You're on the air. I'll say hello to everybody back in the broadcast area.
Hello, everyone back in the broadcast area.
Did you watch Launch America today?
I did watch Launch America today. It was amazing. The visuals were great.
Yeah, it's been a great thing so far. We're still watching the NASA video of inside the crew capsule, and we're still calling commentary here.
I don't want to know. We have trouble getting the video footage there. They're getting great video shots from how many thousands of miles up.
Yeah, they the SpaceX team has really perfected the art of video on this. It's amazing what they can do, and they've taken advantage of every technology out there, and it's been amazing some of the videos that they bring back. We had a nice clean feed of the pad and pad audio, which for the liftoff, but we had a great shot from we're sitting on a deck at a bed and breakfast 12 miles away in Titusville, and we had a great view of the launch from here.
Even though on television you saw a great image of that launch, there's no way to describe the rumble that you hear and feel about a minute afterwards. There's no way to really describe that on radio or television.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So you got a good seat from where you're at in Pennsylvania?
We had a great seat where we were at. I mean, got to tell you, the view watching it from on Discovery Channel and all that was awesome. But the video was amazing. Just watching the effortless motions they had, 12,000 kilometers an hour, and just watching them and like effortless for those guys to touch screen to get the that phenomenal was great.
Yeah, absolutely.
How could not come back on the ship at the sea was even better yet.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a wonderful launch. We had showers here, just like a normal Babe Ruth softball day. We had showers here, and we had a tarp up over all our gear, and it cleared out about 30 minutes before the launch time, 30 to 40 minutes, and we had a great terminal countdown all the way out.
And one thing that they have been mentioning on the news coverage, and I can see it happening too, NASA and SpaceX hoping that, especially after the whole COVID-19 issue, that this launch kind of brings our country back together.
I don't think so. I think I'd love to know the ratings on everyone that watched it. I think we see a lot of people coming together and actually bringing the country back together on something that amazing.
I think amongst everything, it's probably in the tens and 20. It's probably close to 100 million people amongst all the platforms watching this one. I would safely say that that's a safe bet. Yeah. Hey, Tony, it was great hearing from you.
Great meeting here. Glad you guys got to see a great launch today, and give me a call later when you have a chance.
I will do that.
Bye-bye.
Didn't know we could take calls, did you, Ken?
I didn't think we were going to have enough bandwidth to take a phone call. If there's nothing else, if nobody else is calling in, I'm thinking about maybe celebrating with all the other guests.
Yeah, I would say, well, we got to break down all the equipment first. But, yeah, Launch America coverage will continue on NASA right up through docking. They're going to do continuous coverage right up through docking in teaming up with SpaceX. So if you're an affiliate watching us in Agawam or whatever, I think Les Tingley will be switching over to NASA TV for the duration of the mission.
Mm-hmm. And what's happening on Channel 15 and WestfieldTV.org at that point?
We have other programming coming up at the top of the hour.
Excellent.
But we're going to be switching over to NASA TV for the overnight.
Okay.
So we're going to be taking NASA TV for the overnight right up until 8 o'clock when we have the Sunday morning shows, and then we're going to be intermingling NASA TV with coverage. So we'll work on the docking for tomorrow. I'm going to get the timing of that and get some scheduling done, and we're going to do that. But a great launch at the Cape today. Now you'll see the traffic clearing out. If you want to show that on your camera, it's going to be a little crazy right now. This is what we're seeing right now for traffic, and this is it's going to be a little crazy for the next couple hours here in Titusville. But it's been a great launch, and it's just been a great day here in Titusville, and a great spot to watch from. Normally we get a little bit closer than this, but you know what? It looked pretty good from where we were at, and we got to see the Falcon 9 and Crew Dragon achieve orbit, and now they're raced to the International Space Station. So all's going well, very, very well for the crew. Bob and Doug are well on their way, and now the congratulations are pouring in from all over the place. Let's go over to NASA feed. Jim Bridenstine is going to be on the feed over there.
I want to give a lot of credit to Charlie Bolden. He was my predecessor as the NASA administrator. He fought hard for this program at a time when it didn't get any support in Congress. We now have an administration that is fully supportive of our spaceflight initiatives, not just on the exploration, discovery, going to the moon, onto Mars, but also from a Space Force perspective. Our budgets are going up, things are strong, and today was just just an amazing day. You know, one of the things the president did right out of the gate when he became president is he created what's called the National Space Council, and he put the vice president as chairman of the National Space Council. And on that National Space Council, you've got the Secretary of Defense and the Secretary of State and the Secretary of Commerce, the Secretary of Transportation, the Secretary of Education, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, all of these different amazing individuals that deal with space day in and day out. A lot of people don't realize how many parts of the federal government deal with space. And the vice president invited those members of the National Space Council here as well. So we just had, and then we had members of Congress, bipartisan members of Congress, Republicans and Democrats, who have been involved in supporting this program for a long time now. So I'll just tell you, I'm breathing a sigh of relief, but I will also tell you I am not going to celebrate until Bob and Doug are home safely. Tomorrow they're going to dock to the International Space Station. Tonight I'm heading to Houston to be at the Johnson Space Center when that happens. So it's a bit of a relief. The nose cone is now open. It's now deployed, which means that now we're going to go into some burns. We're going to have some phasing burns. We're going to have some boosting burns, and we're going to get as much as we can in alignment with the International Space Station as early as possible here. But also, I know it's hard, but the big thing that we need to do now is we got to get Bob and Doug, who have now gone through this exercise twice. They need to get some rest. But I can guarantee you there will be no rest for a good amount of time while they're up there in orbit.
And they are certainly on their way, and a lot of people joining us for this entire celebration and watching it. We just heard 10 million people watching live as this launch happened, and President Donald Trump becoming the third sitting president to watch a launch live from the Kennedy Space Center. The first.
To be clear, I think he's the only sitting president to watch American astronauts launch on a brand new rocket that has never launched before, and that's a big risk. He also said we're going to go to the moon by 2024. That means he's putting himself at risk to say, look, I'm going to be accountable, potentially, I'm going to be accountable to the initiatives that I put forward. And I think we have not had that kind of leadership for space in a very, very long time, and we're so grateful for it.
What was it like watching the launch with the president? How did he react?
Oh, I'll tell you, it's obviously something that is near and dear to him. He said it a year and a half ago. He put it in the State of the Union speech. He said, we're going to launch American astronauts on American rockets from American soil. And of course, I was like, in my head, I'm thinking we better get after this. Of course, we've worked overtime to make it happen. We might be a little behind schedule, but we got it done, and we got it done safely. We're knocking on wood, but so far so good. It's looking good.
You personally, Jim, as that rocket was lifting off and you felt that rumble?
Yeah.
What'd you feel? What'd you experience?
Well, I was praying. I'm not going to lie to you. I was praying. I was praying for Bob and Doug. I was praying for their families. I was praying for their safe return, even though they're just going. But man, I'll tell you, it was, I've heard that rumble before, but it's a whole different feeling when you've got your own team on that rocket, and they are our team. They are America's team. This is Launch America. This is everything that America has to offer in its purest form. And times are tough right now. There is no doubt. We've got the coronavirus pandemic. We have other challenges as a country. But I hope this moment in time is an opportunity for everybody to reflect on humanity and what we can do when we work together, when we strive, and when we achieve. And if this can inspire a young child to become the next Elon Musk or the next Jeff Bezos or the next Sir Richard Branson, then that's what this is all about.
Or the next Jim Bridenstine.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't put me in that category, but...
Well, we appreciate your leadership for the Space Agency at this time, and congratulations on an amazing day in the launch.
Thank you. It's been a great ride.
All right, very good. Ree, we'll send it back to you in the studio.
Doug and Bob are on course to arrive at the International Space Station tomorrow, May 31st at 10:27 a.m. Eastern Time. And we'll be staying on the air for continuous live coverage along the entire ride to the station. So though our coverage here is concluding, we will turn it over to the teams in Hawthorne and Houston to take us through the next phases of the Demo 2 mission, all the way through hatch opening and a welcome ceremony on the space station for Bob and Doug tomorrow.
That's right, and as you follow along, we invite you to tune into a post-launch news conference that's happening here at 6:30 this evening Eastern Time on NASA TV. We'll have NASA and SpaceX leaders here to take questions live on this unprecedented achievement in human spaceflight. And in addition to NASA TV, you can follow along always on Twitter at @NASA and nasa.gov for mission updates as it progresses. Here now are highlights from the mission so far. May 30th, 2020. Remember this day. You'll have this memory forever. The day America returned astronauts to orbit from U.S. soil.
Wow, we're making history again.
Let's go.